Hey everybody, Massachusetts Governor Charlie Baker here. And if there was ever an event that shouldn't happen virtually, it would be this one. Because we're talking about Boston Harbor and the islands that make up a beautiful park system in conjunction with the folks at DCR and Boston Harbor Now. I want to start first of all by congratulating Boston Harbor Now on its 25 years of diligence and vigilance on behalf of the islands of Boston Harbor and the harbor itself. I can't believe how much that place has changed since I was in college, which was, let's just say, a while back. It's really become a spectacular piece of what I would call the new Boston, the new New England, whatever term you like best. But it's one of our proudest accomplishments in cleaning up an area that desperately needed to be cleaned up and giving it a chance to be the great natural resource that was there all the time and just needed a little help to get there. I also want to thank the Nolan family from Boston Harbor Cruises. I know they're being honored this year, but I want to thank them for the work they've done with foster families and with kids from the Department of Children and Families and the Wonder Fund. My wife, Lauren, talks all the time about what incredible hosts you were to some of the really great kids and families who are part of our constellation of kids and families that we serve through the Department of Children and Families. Again, great organizations coming together to support great work, doing it virtually, but honestly next year, I really hope we all have a chance to get out on a boat or on boats and get a good look at that beautiful harbor that you've all had so much to do with creating and maintaining. God bless and thank you.
Good evening, and on behalf of the Board of Boston Harbor Now, thank you for joining us for this celebration of our harbor, waterfront, and islands. I'm Jeff Porter, Chair of Boston Harbor Now's Board of Trustees. I want to begin this evening by thanking Richard Walker and Jessica Hughes for co-chairing this special event and for their tireless commitment to its success. Thank you also to our sponsors and to everyone who has offered their financial support this evening. The COVID-19 state of emergency made our spectacle on spectacle and on-board events impossible this year. So Boston Harbor Now's continued success depends on the success of this event. I am on Deer Island, one of the 34 islands and peninsulas that are part of the Boston Harbor Islands National and State Park. In 2020, we better appreciate what we may have begun to take for granted in the decades since the Boston Harbor cleanup began here. We appreciate the role places like the harbor, waterfront, and islands can and should play in our day-to-day lives. Now more than ever, we all need Boston Harbor, its waterfront and islands for exercise, rest, and connections to others. And now more than ever, we're challenged to confront inequality and injustice by making the harbor, waterfront, and islands accessible to all. I'm proud that Boston Harbor Now has always prioritized free and low-cost access and programming to our harbor and islands. Last year alone, we brought 40,000 children and their families to the islands for free. Even in these most challenging times, we are committed to increasing the free access we provide, but we need your help. Tonight, we have a fantastic program for you to enjoy. In just a moment, you'll meet our CEO, Kathy Abbott, who will introduce Leverett Wing, a member of our Board of Advisors. Leverett will share his perspective on how the harbor enriches our community. Later, we will recognize the Nolan Family and Boston Harbor Cruises for their many contributions to an accessible for all Boston Harbor. We will end our time together with an energetic performance from Veronica Robles and her All Female Mariachi Band. So pull up a chair, freshen up your drink, and welcome a true champion of Boston Harbor, Kathy Abbott, CEO of Boston Harbor Now.
Thank you, Jeff, for that introduction, and thank you, Governor Baker, for welcoming everybody to the event this evening. It's a real pleasure to work with the support of your administration, the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs, and our partnership with the Department of Conservation and Recreation on the Boston Harbor Islands National and State Park area, as well as all the other DCR parks around Boston Harbor. I'm proud to be part of this evening's celebration, Our Harbor, Our Home, celebrating our waterfront, harbor, and islands. I want to take this opportunity to thank a few of our generous sponsors: the Nolan Family, the Jim and Kathy Stone Foundation, the Plymouth Rock Assurance Foundation, Exelon, Boston Properties, and Millennium Properties. And thank you to all of our other supporters and friends who are here with us tonight. Your generosity and commitment to our organization is critical during these uncertain times. Your support of this evening's program is truly an investment in waterfront programming for all of our communities when they need it most. The title of this event is Our Harbor, Our Home. For many of us, the harbor is home. It provides a place of respite, comfort, and connection. We at Boston Harbor Now envision a harbor that feels like home for everyone. That's why we work with many community partners to connect our region's residents with their harbor. I now have the honor of introducing Leverett Wing, a longtime activist, organizer, and leader in our community, and also a member of Boston Harbor Now's advisory board. Leverett grew up in a community just minutes from Boston Harbor that still faces many physical and systemic barriers to the harbor. Today, Leverett partners with Boston Harbor Now to bring his community to the waterfront, the harbor, and islands. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Leverett Wing.
My name's Leverett Lee Wing, and I grew up in Chelsea, Massachusetts. Chelsea is a unique place, very gritty, very immigrant-oriented town, has always been the home for folks who are starting their trail here in America. Growing up there, my parents owned a Chinese restaurant, and the only real exposure I ever got to the harbor was when my dad would drive me back from Boston. He would go shopping in Chinatown for supplies. So we really never knew about the harbor. There was so much industry on the shores of Chelsea. There are oil tanks, there are salt piles, and because of these various barriers, we didn't have access to it. Now that I'm an adult, I've become a lot more cognizant of what the harbor offers, and I realize the impact that it has on so many people, on my family, not just from an industrial standpoint, but from an environmental standpoint, from an enjoyment standpoint, and yeah, I can't tell you how lucky we are to be able to access those types of resources. But in terms of folks from the Asian American community, they are experiencing something similar to me. They don't even know about the harbor. Chinatown's maybe half a mile away from the harbor. Quincy is right on the water's edge. In theory, Malden is about a 15-minute T ride away. So you've got all these enclaves of Asian Americans who are within walking distance or a quick ride to the harbor. And the fact that a lot of them don't access the incredible resources that the harbor provides is really sad. And that's why I got involved with Boston Harbor Now. Boston Harbor Now was really proactive in terms of seeking out more diverse communities to access the harbor, to access the resources that the harbor and the islands provide. So about 5 years ago, they reached out to me and they said, a lot of the Asian American community, we don't see a lot of the community taking advantage of the harbor. We don't see them taking advantage of our educational programs. And I said, I just don't think the community knows about it. And so they said to me, why don't we provide some sort of opportunity for them to learn about the harbor, to learn about some of the programs and some of the things that are out there. And this is sort of the story of the Chinatown Community Cruise. I was really nervous that we weren't going to get anybody coming on the boat, and so we put out the tickets. And the first year, it sold out in 8 hours. The second year, I put out tickets, and it sold out in 27 minutes. And then the third year, put them out, sold out in 11 minutes. And then last year, the fourth year, I put them out, and it sold out in 10 minutes. And that's 900 people on a boat. And people start lining up, and you see this sea of people just stretching down Seaport Boulevard. And it's an amazing sight to see, and it's so exciting to see, and it's invigorating, and it's inspiring to see the community wanting to get out on the harbor. It means a lot to be able to access the harbor and to have folks from the community enjoying an experience that they never had before. And that's something special. So this was going to be the 5th anniversary, and I had all these incredible things planned, and unfortunately the pandemic hit. It was a 1-2 punch. Early on, the Asian American community got hit hard by anti-Asian racism because it was perceived that it was the Chinese virus. Anti-Asian sentiment, anti-Asian violence started creeping in, and then economically the communities really suffered because of the economic toll that it took. The community has been under siege, so it's going to be a really far-reaching impact economically, socially, from a human standpoint. It's so easy to be generous, and it's so easy to think about diversity and inclusion when things are going well. But when things are tough, and things, at least in my memory, have never been as tough as they are now, it's easy to lose sight of that. But Boston Harbor Now is one of those organizations that really walks the walk. I mean, even in the midst of this pandemic, Boston Harbor's coming through. In lieu of having our annual community cruise, Boston Harbor Now is still being incredibly generous and offering the community access to Spectacle Island. It'll be something that the community can look forward to, something positive for the community. I can't express enough how grateful the community is to have Boston Harbor Now. I can't wait to keep exploring the harbor.
Thank you, Leverett, for sharing your incredible story. Leverett's story symbolizes what Boston Harbor Now is all about creating a welcoming and accessible harbor for everybody that offers transformative experiences at every age. Boston Harbor Now is eager to expand these opportunities and experiences to everybody in the greater Boston community. To do this, we need your help. When you make your gift today, you will ensure that we will be able to make free trips to Spectacle Island. These trips provide community members the opportunity to recreate, to relax, and to spend time with friends and with family. Your support can open a lifelong relationship with Boston Harbor, making it everyone's home. Giving could not be more easy. Simply text HARBOR to 91999. You can also donate by visiting bostonharbornow.org/donate. Now I want to hand it back to my friend and board chair, Jeff Porter, to introduce our award recipients for tonight, the Nolan family.
Thank you, Leverett and Kathy. If you have been on a ferry or tour boat on Boston Harbor any time in the last 90 years, odds are that that boat was owned and operated by the Nolan family. You heard me correctly. For 90 years, the Nolan family owned and operated Boston Harbor cruises. From ferries to the Boston Harbor Islands, to water taxis, to whale watches, to Codzilla. This family-run business has diversified and modernized water transportation in and around Boston Harbor. And the Nolan family has always met Boston Harbor Now at least halfway in our effort to provide community cruises and free trips to the islands. We literally could not host the Spectacle on Spectacle without their partnership. These are only two of the many, many ways that the Nolans have supported our mission. I'm so very proud that Allison Nolan is now one of my colleagues on the Boston Harbor Now board. Nolan family, Boston Harbor Now is so happy to honor you this evening. Our ability to provide access for all is what it is because of you. We're so grateful for your many contributions, and we look forward to continuing our work together. In the meantime, I offer Boston Harbor Now's heartfelt thanks and wish you fair winds and following seas. And now it is my pleasure to introduce the Nolan family, our honorees tonight.
The Nolan family is honored to be recognized by Boston Harbor Now this evening, an organization with which we share a passion for and dedication to Boston Harbor, its waterfront, and islands. For over 90 years, the Nolan family has taken people across Boston Harbor to share its extraordinary history for both local residents and visitors from around the world. We have watched with pride as Boston Harbor has developed through the years to become a clean, developed, activated resource for recreation, transportation, and placemaking. Although we have already come so far, it is clear to all of us that the Port of Boston and Boston Harbor Now are just getting started. So from all of us in the Nolan family, thank you to Boston Harbor Now, and we invite you all to raise your glasses in anticipation of the next 90 years of our extraordinary Boston Harbor. We can't wait to see what happens next.
Thank you, Allison, Rick, Chris, and Patrick. I want to extend my congratulations to each of you and the entire team at Boston Harbor Cruises. Your commitment to creating a welcoming and accessible waterfront and harbor have benefited tourists, residents, and commuters for years. I would be remiss if I didn't remind you that you can still donate by texting HARBOR at 91999. On behalf of all of us at Boston Harbor Now, I want to thank you for joining us tonight for Our Harbor, Our Home. And now it's time for your homework. I want to ask each of you to get out on the harbor this summer. Get down to the Harbor Walk and explore a new neighborhood, take the boat out to Spectacle and hike a new trail, or just get out and go for a ride and enjoy and appreciate the view from our waterfront. So come visit the harbor, make it your home. We can't wait to see you. And now it is truly my honor to introduce Veronica Robles, a member of the Boston Harbor Now Advisory Board with her All Female Mariachi Band. Veronica has partnered with Boston Harbor Now to bring the Latinx community to Boston Harbor. We are incredibly grateful for her time and her many talents, which you are about to get to enjoy. Without further ado, let's end our evening with some fabulous music, terrific energy from Veronica and her mariachi band. Take it away, Veronica.
Thank you, Kathy. Our harbor, our home. 1, 2, 3. Ay, qué linda. Qué re chula es la fiesta de mi rancho. us today to celebrate our harbor, our home. Now, I'm gonna ask you if you want to, if you are home and you have enough space, and if you don't have enough space, that's okay. I want you to learn 5 quick moves so you can dance with me on the next song. It is about the river in the Amazon, so we are in the harbor. That's what I decided to do that song. The first move, girls, is with your right hand up, you bring it down to the side, and then you switch to the left and to the left, and then you alternate. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the second move is like paddling or like the hula dance, side, and side, and side, and side. That's number 2. The number 3 is just shake, 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 shake. Very good. And now number 4 is spin around like this. Good job. And now the number 5 is like salsa. Forward and back and forward and back. And then you can do it side to side, side to side. Are you ready? You can make the combination any way you want it during the performance, during the dance, okay? Because you're gonna be part of the performance, okay? So this is Nicole. A big round of applause for Nicole. I wanna see those icons. And I wanna see another icon for lovely Bengi Sue. My name is Veronica Robles. Very happy to be here. Thank you very much for celebrating our harbor, our home, and thank you very much for your support. Now, I'm gonna sing this song that is called La Canoa de Don Guillermo. Okay, let's do it. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Al despuntar la mañana lleva el río una canoa, Don Guillermo va en la proa, bajo un cielo y sol ardiente, va bordeando las cañadas para llegar hasta su gente. Cae la tarde, ya oscurece, las bandadas se guarecen, bajo el remo le estremece Don Guillermo a su canoa, va cargado de ilusiones y entonando alegres sones. Lleva en su alma la idolatría por Doña Paula su consentida, esa trigueña de chidos pechos que noche a noche le da alegría. 4 pedazos de azul percala para el vestido de Doña Paula, leche enlatada para los niños que ha prometido llevar un día. Con sol y lluvia luchó con fuerzas, por más de un año cortó madera, sembró la tierra, porque en su pecho brilla una estrella de luz tan clara que solo existe en su alma iluminada, porque en su pecho brilla una estrella de luz tan clara que solo existe en su alma iluminada. Lleva en su alma la idolatría por Doña Paula su consentida, esa trigueña de chidos pechos que noche a noche le da alegría. 4 pedazos de azul percala para el vestido de Doña Paula, leche enlatada para los niños que ha prometido llevar un día. Con sol y lluvia luchó con fuerzas, por más de un año cortó madera, sembró la tierra, porque en su pecho brilla una estrella de luz tan clara que solo existe en su alma iluminada. Porque en su pecho brilla una estrella de luz tan clara que solo existe en su alma iluminada. My name is Veronica Robles, Benguisugoske, and Nicole Edgecombe, and we are Boston First All Women Mariachi Band. Thank you for celebrating our harbor, our home. Hasta pronto.